Hello everybody, how you doing tonight? Last night I was in the shop and I told you that I was wanting to make a few cutting boards. I've never made any before, and I gathered up some wood to do that, and I really wanted to put some thought into it. I didn't get that video released this morning, which this is now Friday morning. It should have been released Thursday morning. It's a day behind because I had some technical difficulties. No big deal, everything's straightened out. But I mentioned in the video that I really needed to put some thought into this as to what I wanted to do with these cutting boards. I just didn't want to start cutting wood and then next thing you know, I've got everything cut into strips and I just can't make anything that I want to make. So last night I had a little bit of time. It got quiet while the kids were doing some homework, and I came up with 3 cutting board designs. I got a couple of other ideas, but I think I'm just going to focus on these 3 for now. No sense overwhelming myself, but they're relatively simple. And I think they're going to look really nice, and I'd like to show them to you. Here's the first design. It's going to be a 16-inch by a 10-inch cutting board, and I'm going to alternate dark and light woods. It'll start with a large piece of dark wood and work down to a small piece, and the same thing on this side, just the opposite. And then there's just a large cap piece on either end. This little bar right here will be a light piece of wood, and this little bar will be a dark piece of wood, so that'll just cap the board off. I think that'll look really nice. And I like that design, so what I did, get this page flipped over, is I decided to do one lengthways. It's the same basic thing. I've got all my measurements figured out now. My cutting boards will be 3/4 of an inch thick. This one will be 14 by 10. I can control the length a little more. That one I had to make 16 so that my numbers, I could work my numbers out to where I had some nice, nice numbers for decent size thickness boards. But it's basically the same cutting board. I just alternated the direction. I thought that was kind of cool. And the third one I came up with, you see a lot of these, but it's a brick design. And I figured out how to do this. It will be, well, shucks, I didn't write my full dimensions on there, so I can't tell you. It's going to be, let's see, these are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 inches wide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then these are all 1/4 of an inch. So let's say somewhere between 13, 14 inches in length. 3/4 of an inch thick. So that's what I want to work on. Now that I have a plan, today it occurred to me that before I start cutting, I don't want to put stuff against the fence and cut. I'd like to be able to use a stop block, so that I don't have to worry about some of these 1/4 inch pieces getting jammed between the fence and the blade and then getting launched across the shop or into me. So I started thinking, well, what I need is to use my table saw sled. And it occurred to me that I had a table saw sled for my old table saw. I've never made a table saw sled for this table saw. So I'm going to go back up on the loft tonight and see if I can't dig up. I've got a piece of oak ply up there that was given to me. And I'm going to grab that, and then I'm going to see if I can find a nice, decent piece of wood. If I have to join it and plane it to make it perfectly square, that's fine. But a piece of wood for the back of the sled. And I'm going to get started making a sled. I don't know if I'll start tonight, but it's just going to be a simple cross-cut sled to where I can lay the wood on there. I'll set up a stop block on one end so that I can keep it the right distance and just run it through the blade and get some nice straight cuts and avoid wedging a piece of wood between the blade and the fence. So that, got to make another project just to make the project. But that's what I'm going to work on tonight. So I'll come back and see you when I get the wood together. I'm back from the loft, and I've gathered up the wood I'll need for my table saw. And let me show you what I plan to do. Here's that piece of oak plywood I was telling you about. It's got some holes in it. It used to be the inside of a cabinet, but that's not going to hurt anything. It looks like it's about 24 and 3/4 of an inch long, so it's plenty long enough. What I plan to do is I've got this 2x4 here, and it's relatively straight. But what I'll do is I'll run it through the joiner, and I'll joint 2 sides, and then the other 2 sides I'll just clean up on the planer, and I'll cut it to 24 and 3/4, exactly the size of the back of this sled, and I'll square it to my blade, mount it to the sled, and I've got a couple of runners here. Let me flip this around. These are some runners. They were on an old sled, and I took them off, but they were built for this table saw. They've got a nice tight fit. You can see they're ready to go. They're already pre-drilled where I had them attached before to the other sled. I'll get them waxed up really good with some paste wax, and I'll also clean up and wax my channels, my T-channels on my saw, because as you can see, my saw is really starting to look rough. I haven't babied it in a while. and that ought to give me a really nice sled. Oh yeah, let me measure how thick it is. I said how thick, I meant how wide. It's 14.5 inches. You figure a 2x4 is 1 3/4 inches. It'll probably be about 1.5 inches by the time I get done joining and planing it. I'll mount it on the sled. Obviously, I want the blade to run into the saw, so I'll need a couple of inches, otherwise the sled will split in half. So just thinking through this, I'll try to get maybe somewhere between 11 and 12 inches on the sled. And if the wood sticks over a little bit at the far end, that's okay. I can back it up, you know, to start it, and I can cut a longer piece of wood. But I may end up with an 11 to 12 inch depth on my sled. Okay, so it's time for me to start getting busy and see what I can do. Well, after gathering up the wood for the sled, I got busy, and take a look at this. It is as simple as you can get. It is a cross-cut sled, but it's perfectly perpendicular to the blade. And the way I know is I took a piece of scrap, I laid it against the fence of the sled, ran through the blade. When the blade stopped, I flipped it over, was able to run it back through, and there was no resistance of that cut. The blade slid right into it. So it is as simple as you can get, but it's going to give me perfectly square cuts every single time. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. Come back and see me again real soon. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.